And I'm pretty sure a lot of you already know what the value proposition is. But in this webinar, we're going to discuss more why is this important, what is the value proposition, what is our actual value proposition, and how can we actually start using it on the local level, and how can we actually start using it to make sure that our operations are going better and smoother, and that our relationships, either with our EPs or our clients, are getting stronger and better. So in this webinar, I'm going to be covering the basics. But again, if you have any questions, you can just ask whatever questions you have, and I'm going to make sure that I answer those. So let's start. So first of all, we need to go over what is the value proposition. We need to understand what is the value proposition and what is global volunteer specifically. So when it comes to global volunteer, as mentioned in the global compendium and as described in the global compendium, global volunteer is an opportunity for a young person to develop LDQs, which means self-awareness, solution orientation, empowering others, and world citizenship, by living a cross-cultural volunteer experience. In this product specifically, a young person, which means a person from 18 to 30 years old, volunteers abroad on social impact projects that contribute to the SDGs. Okay, so what this means, there are certain keywords in this definition that we need to pay attention to. So first of all, global volunteers' first purpose is that the person who is going on this volunteering experience gets to develop their LDQs, which means that they get to develop 4 qualities that ISEC advocates for. Second, they get to live a cross-cultural volunteering experience, which means that that volunteering experience is not going to be in their country, but it's going to be in a different culture, in a different country that is completely different than the one that they know. And again, this person is going to volunteer abroad on social impact projects. So GV tackles specifically social impact projects, and those projects contribute to the SDGs. So these are the things that we need to take out of this definition, and these are the things that we need to keep in mind as we describe and define what is global volunteer. So when it comes to global volunteer or GV as a product, the duration is from 6 to 8 weeks, and the enablers are obviously NGOs, so we cannot work with other enablers other than NGOs, or the majority of our clients and enablers are actually NGOs. GV is not paid. The EPs who go on a volunteering experience don't get paid because, again, it is a volunteering experience, but we provide accommodation, and sometimes we even provide more benefits to the EP, like food, like transportation, and things like that. And the main purpose of GV as a whole is impact and development. So now let's discover what is a value proposition, or why is it important for us to have a value proposition. So the value proposition is the promise of value that we deliver and communicate and acknowledge, which means that whatever the customer believes that we're going to deliver as a value to them is our value proposition. So the value proposition is a belief from the customer about how the value will be delivered, experienced, and acquired. So the value proposition itself depends on how the EP or the client perceives our products, and how the EP or the client experience our products. And the value proposition, it shouldn't be just a definition that we need to understand or know. It shouldn't be just some words that we know by heart, but our value proposition is our primary tool to sell. What do I mean by that? This means that when it comes to the value proposition specifically, you cannot go to a sales meeting with the client without knowing by heart what is your value proposition, and without believing and understanding what is your value proposition. Because by the end of the day, that is the one thing that you are offering to the clients, and that is the one thing that you are providing them. You are providing them with a value. You are not providing them with a tangible product, but you are giving them a service or a value. And you need to understand clearly what is the value proposition of that product that you are trying to sell to the client. Same goes to the EPs. You cannot go through successful sales with your EPs, either in interviews or when you're talking to them on WhatsApp or when you're sending them emails. You cannot go through successful sales with them if you don't understand and know exactly what your value proposition is. So it is very important for us to know what the value proposition of GV as a product is from both sides, clients and EPs. This way, when we are doing sales and when we are selling to the EPs, we can know exactly what are the things that we need to put forward, and what are the things that we need to stress upon when we are doing sales with both clients and EPs. So now let's move to the actual value proposition of GV. And the first thing we're going to tackle is GV's value proposition when it comes to youth specifically. So when it comes to a young person from 18 to 30 years old, The value proposition of GV is cross-cultural volunteer experience for young people who seek to develop themselves and contribute to the SDGs, which means that this person aims or seeks to develop themselves by impacting the world. And there are three main things or three main pointers and keywords that we need to take out of this value proposition. First of all, it is a cross-cultural experience, which means that the EP is going to live an experience in a new culture, in a new environment, in a new country, but they are going to be meeting people who think like them, like-minded people who have the same aspirations, who have the same beliefs about the world, who want to change the world and expand their network. Second thing is developing yourself. So GV as a product gives you the opportunity to actually develop yourself by living in a challenging environment. And like I mentioned in the beginning, GV as a product gives you also the opportunity to develop the LDQs or the leadership development qualities, which are in the number of 4. So this product or this experience that the EPs go through enables them to develop those qualities and enables them to live in a challenging environment. And that way they can actually develop themselves. And the third and last thing is diverse projects, which means that when it comes to GV specifically, we have so many projects all over the world. We have so many different kind of job description, different kinds of activities that the EPs can do. So the EP will definitely find something that they can connect to. They can definitely find something that they can actually relate to. So we have a lot of, even in, like just in India, we have so many different types of projects and so many types of job descriptions that the EPs can go through, which means that there is a huge variety of activities for the EP to actually choose from. When it comes to our clients or our partners, here is the value proposition for them. So for organizations, they can make a local impact through global volunteer, which means that GV as a product enables those NGOs to bring people from all around the world to make a local impact within their community by organizing a project with ISEC. So whatever the field that the NGO is working in, whatever the activities that they do on a daily basis, ISEC can actually help improving those activities, and ISEC can actually bring them people who can help them and work with them, making that impact happen in their communities. So there are 4 keywords or 4 pointers again that we can take out of this value proposition. The first thing is a global perspective. So for an NGO, for example, in India, when we bring them interns or when we bring them EPs, we add a multicultural perspective to their organization, which means that they get many, many perspectives from all over the world about how the world functions, about how these people actually perceive world issues, what kind of solutions they can bring from their backgrounds and from their countries. Second thing is they can source with ease. One thing that we need to keep in mind here is that these NGOs are not looking for employees. We do not give them employees, but we give them volunteers, which means that they can. What do we mean by they can source with ease? This means that they can get many different profiles from many different backgrounds, and ISEC as a platform make this easier for them, makes the whole process much more easier for them, and gets them like very different profiles from a lot of countries across the world. The third thing that we need to keep in mind is ISEC support. So again, ISEC is just a platform between the EPs and the clients. So even ISECers are volunteers, which means that we take care of things voluntarily, like logistics, like the support that we provide to the EPs when it comes to the visa, when it comes to the documentation they need, when it comes to the traineeships that we provide them with, all of the preparation that they go through before actually going to the projects. All of those things, they fall under ISEC support that the organization actually gives to the clients. And the fourth and last thing is project design for impact, which means that all our projects are aligned with the SDGs and all our projects contribute to the SDGs. And we're gonna see how that makes us relevant and outspoken as an organization in the next slide. But all our projects are designed for impact, which means that each and every single one of our projects has like a very clear and defined goal and a very clear and defined objective that falls under the Sustainable Development Goals, which are in the number of 17. So these are the value propositions for both clients and EPs. And before actually moving to the next slide, I just wanted to share with you how I actually connect with those value propositions, because I believe it is very important for you to find that point of connection between you and ISEC and between you and GV as a product. So for me, what I believe is that GV is that one product that contributes the most to the ISEC way, which means that if ISEC says that we want to create an impact and we strive to achieve peace and fulfillment of humankind's potential, then GV is that one tool that is most contributing to that. And that is why I believe in GV as a product. That is why I believe that GV is a very impactful product that can actually make a huge change in the world. So from the time I was on the local level, I always believed that the interns that I used to receive or the interns that I used to send on global volunteer projects, one, I always noticed that the change that they went through was huge. Like those people changed 180 degrees in ways that I could have never imagined. So the mere experience that they went through and the simple experience that they went through made them realized a new potential of theirs, made them realize that the world has many perspectives that they can share, made them realize that there is a lot that can be done to actually make the world a better place. And the one thing that is most important is that none of them, like all of them, believe that with simple and very small actions, they can make very huge and big change in the world. And that is the one thing that all of the EPs that I know have in common. And then I started advancing in ISEC, and I kept believing more and more in the value proposition of GV. Why? Because I saw the impact that this product had on the world, and I saw how much it was actually changing the world. And I could even see that in my own country back in Morocco, because a lot of the issues that we were facing and a lot of the issues that were facing us as a country, GV was actually a solution for a lot of those. And I got in touch and in communication with a lot of NGOs, with a lot of organizations that worked with ISEC, and they could actually sense and feel the impact that ISEC was bringing through those volunteers. So the one thing that I want you to do is to actually find your point of connection to GV, because that is a major thing that's gonna help you a lot in doing your sales for GV, either with clients or EPs, because if they feel and believe that you actually believe and understand very clearly what GV is about, and that you believe in the impact that GV can bring, then the sales are gonna go much more easier, and they're gonna trust you much more, and they're gonna trust the product much more. And it is also very important to keep in mind that GV as a product went through a lot of changes. So it was not always called GV, and it was not always under this form. So since the time ISEC was created back in 1948, GV had seen many evolutions and improvements throughout the years. And I believe that the current form of GV that we have right now is one of the most impactful forms that we have had in all the recent years. One, because of our SDG alignment, which is a very important factor for us to actually bring the impact that we want to the world. And second, because of the fact that GV itself, with all the diversification of projects that we have and the way that we design our projects, this enables us to actually bring a huge impact to our communities. So now let's discover why we are relevant to the world. So this is the way that we are relevant to the world, and it hasn't always been like this. So when it comes to the SDGs specifically, SDGs were created back in 2015, and they are an evolution of the MDGs, if you know the MDGs. So the MDGs were the Millennial Development Goals, but the MDGs as goals were very vague and not clear enough in terms of what we wanted to actually improve in the world and what we actually wanted to change in the world. So world leaders gathered again, and they came up with SDGs, or Sustainable Development Goals, as an evolution and improvement of the MDGs. And the Sustainable Development Goals are in the number of 17, as you can see on the slide. And ISEC decided in 2015, 2016 to actually align itself to the SDGs. And we decided that all our GV projects are going to be aligned with the SDGs. And whatever projects we are creating in our platforms and providing to our EPs and clients, those projects need 100% to be aligned with the Sustainable Development Goals. So they need to be achieving at least one of the targets that we have under the Sustainable Development Goals. And that is the way we are relevant to the world right now in 2019. That is the way we tell the world that we are doing something that is relevant for you. We tell our people that we are doing something that is relevant for you. And it also gives us a very huge and big opportunity to actually be outspoken and be out there in the global scene. But the thing that we need to keep in mind and take into consideration is the fact that SDGs are only there until 2030. So once we reach 2030, ISEC as an organization will need to find something new to actually be relevant to the world, because SDGs are not going to be relevant forever, but they have a deadline, they have an expiration date, which is 2030. So the question that I wanted to reflect upon is how can GV actually still be relevant after 2030? And that is probably a question that every single ISECer needs to be asking themselves, because that is the way we advance and that is the way we progress as an organization. So when it comes to the SDGs specifically, again, it is also something that I believe in a lot, because if you go through the SDGs one by one, and if you go through the goals and targets that those SDGs have, which you can probably find on EXPA, and you can also make your research online to find every single target that falls under every single SDGs, you're going to find that those targets are very, very relevant to the world, especially for countries like Morocco, like India, like Egypt, for example. These kind of countries, they need things like SDGs. They need those targets that we have under SDGs. So let me explain to you the targets in a very brief manner. So let's take, for example, no poverty as an SDG. So no poverty, if we say no poverty, it is a very vague topic. Like what can we do as human beings, or what can we do as ISECer to actually make sure that poverty doesn't exist anymore? It is very vague, and everyone can actually be doing it in their own way. Everyone can have their own perspective about this, and it is gonna be very random and very messy if every single person in the world started doing their own thing without aligning to a general and global framework. So what we did is that a lot of targets were created under each one of the SDGs. So let's say, for example, no poverty. No poverty has around 6 targets. One of them, for example, is by 2030, reduce at least by half the proportion of men, women, and children of all ages living in poverty in all its dimensions according to national definitions. So this is a very specific target. And if an organization or a company or an NGO or whatever is working on this target specifically, then they know how to measure themselves. They will know by the end of their project, for example, if they did a successful job or not. They will know how much of their targets have they actually achieved. So under every single one of the SDGs, we have a different set of targets. And when we're creating our projects in GV, what we do is that first we choose the SDG that we want to contribute to, and then we also choose the target that we want to contribute to. And this gives us a chance as an organization to actually measure ourselves and see how we made, how we are advancing and progressing in making sure that those targets are being met. So this was mainly it for the value proposition webinar. I hope this was fruitful, and that you had bits of knowledge about what our value proposition is and how we are actually relevant to the world. So yeah, I hope this was useful for you guys, and I can't wait